welcome to my video on one-step equations with multiplication and division. Okay, multiplication equations use the division property of equality. And the reason being, division is the opposite of multiplication. Remember the golden rule of algebra: what I do to one side, I must do to the other. Remember, a number beside a variable means multiply. To undo a multiplication equation, we must divide, because the opposite of multiplication is division. So let's look at this first example. 8y equals 24. Since this is a multiplication equation, we are going to divide both sides. Now look at the number in front of the variable. You see an 8, so we're going to divide both sides by 8. Now let me show you how that works. I'm going to divide both sides by 8 like this. And 8 divided by 8 is 1. And since we can assume if we just have a variable by itself, there's a 1 there, so I call it a 1 in disguise. So I don't write the 1y, I just leave it as y. And 24 divided by 8 is 3. So just to recap, because 8 divided by 8 equals 1, you can cancel out the 8s like I did, leaving 24 divided by 8, so y equals 3. Now, let's look at another example here. Now, division equations use the multiplication property of equality, because the opposite of division is multiplication. Okay, to undo a division equation, we must multiply. Again, remember the golden rule of algebra: what I do to one side, I must do to the other. Okay, so here's our example here, and I'm going to circle variable. So we have n over 4 equals 7. So what type of equation is this? That's correct, this is a division equation. So we're going to do the opposite of division, which is multiply. So we're going to multiply both sides by the number in the denominator, which is 4. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. Now, you can look at it like this. If I took a cup and split it up into 4 parts, and one of those 4 parts equals 7, well, if one part equals 7 and I have 4 total parts to make one whole, then I need to multiply both sides by 4 to make a whole. And 4 divided by 4 is a 1 in disguise, so n equals 28. Okay. Now, we're going to look at some examples below, and when I do the ones below, I'm going to show the check for each one. So let's take a look at example number 1. We have negative 9x equals negative 63. So what type of equation is that? Okay, that's a multiplication equation, so I'm going to circle this here. So to undo multiplication, we learned up above that we divide. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 9. Okay, once again, negative 9 divided by negative 9 gives me a 1 in disguise, so I'm just going to write x equals. And negative 63 divided by negative 9 is positive 7, because 2 negatives makes a positive. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show the check underneath here. So we have -9, and I'm going to multiply it by 7 because number in front of letter means to multiply. So -9 times 7 is -63. So now we see that both sides equal each other, so I know my answer of x equals 7 is correct. Okay, let's look at example number 2. I have 16x equals -48. Now, think of this as a cup once again. Okay, if I had a cup and I cut it up into 6 parts, and one of the 6 parts was worth -48. Now, think about if I had 1/6 of a cup, how many parts it would take to make a whole cup. So it would take 6 parts to make a whole cup. Now, another way of looking at it as well is the multiplicative inverse of 1/6 is 6. So to cancel out 1/6, I'm going to multiply both sides by 6. Okay, now, since I'm using the multiplicative inverse, when I multiply a number by its inverse, I always get 1, so we're going to call it a 1 in disguise. And -48 times 6 is -288. Now, I'm going to go ahead and check this. So, when I'm checking this, I can type a fraction in my calculator, and I'm going to tell you how to do that in just a second. So I'm going to write 1/6 times -288 equals -48. Now, to check this in our calculator, I'm going to type in 1 divided by 6 times -288. And if I hit equals, I will get -48. So both sides equal -48, so it checks. Okay, now look at the next equation here. Okay, I have 27 equals x divided by 3. So since I have a fraction here, I'm going to look at this as a division equation. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Okay, because fractions are seen as division. So since the opposite of division is multiplication, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 here. And I'm going to multiply this side by 3. Okay, 3 divided by 3 is a 1 in disguise. So x will equal 27 times 3, which is 81. Now, I wrote 81 equals x. That's the same as x equals 81. Okay, and now I'm going to take my answer and plug it back in to check it. So I'm going to say 27 equals 81 divided by 3. Okay, so now I need to figure out what 81 divided by 3 is. And if we need to, we can double check it in our calculator. So 81 divided by 3 is in fact 27. So since both sides equal each other, I know my answer of 81 checks. Okay, moving right along to example number 4. We have a multiplication equation. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Okay, 4 divided by 4 is a 1 in disguise. So x equals -32 divided by 4. So a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And 32 divided by 4 is 8. So my answer is x equals -8. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and check it on the side here because I'm out of room here. So I'm going to do 4. Since number in front of letter means multiplying, I'm going to do 4 times -8 equals -32. Now, I've just got to double check. 4 times -8. Positive times a negative is a negative. And I know 4 times 8 is 32. So -32 equals negative 32. Since both sides equal each other, I know my answer of negative 8 is correct. Okay, moving right along to example number 5. I have 56 equals 7x. So once again, I'm going to circle the variable, and I see that this is multiplication, so the opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide both sides by 7. 7 divided by 7 is a 1 in disguise. So x will equal 56 divided by 7 is 8. So I'm going to take and show my check over here. So 56 equals, okay, number in front of letter means multiply, so I'm going to take 7 times 8. And 7 times 8 is, of course, 56. Since both sides equal each other, I know my answer checks. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at example number 6. So I'm going to go ahead and close this screen. Remember, at any time you can pause this video if you need to catch up. So I'm going to close it and look at number 6. Now, I see a negative sign in front of a fraction. So what I like to do when I see this is I like to kind of scribble it out and put it with the bottom number. So now I have x divided by negative 7, okay, equals 21. Now, since this is a fraction, I'm going to look at it as division, so the opposite of division is multiplication. And since I have a negative 7 here, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 7. Okay, negative 7 divided by negative 7 is a 1 in disguise. So x equals 21 times negative 7, which is negative 147. So I'm going to circle my answer. Now I'm going to double check my answer, so I'm going to plug it back in. And I have x, so I'm going to put negative 147 divided by, I moved the negative to the bottom, so I'm going to put negative 7 on the bottom, equals 21. Now, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 147 divided by 7 is 21, so 21 equals 21. It checks, so I know my answer of x equals negative 147 is correct. So that concludes page 3 of our notes. I hope you understand it. If you have any questions, please let me know.